Good morning, scholars. Welcome to the lesson on more solving quadratic equations by factoring. Remember, as I say before every single lesson, all assignments can still be submitted. If you haven't finished any assignment from quarter 3 or you're missing an assignment from e-learning, you may turn that in at any time. Remember that e-learning is 50% of your final grade, so keep working hard. My office hours are Monday through Thursday from 10 to 11. You can find the link on Haiku. If you would like more one-on-one time, that's perfect. Just email me and we can set up a time for a private office hour. So I have a celebration today. Yesterday I ran 5.5 miles for the first time in my life. It was amazing. Although it was cold, since I kept a pretty steady pace, I was able to keep some body warmth. So it was really actually very enjoyable. It was also nice to cross something off my bucket list that I've always wanted to do. And I really do look forward to adding more miles on. So what are some things on your bucket list? I'd love to hear from you in the celebrations and announcements section of your IP. I've really been enjoying reading these and responding as well. Remember, the way to be successful with e-learning is to make sure you do all of your lessons in order. Make sure that you watch the video before you do the IP so that you can get some practice. Make sure you take notes. That means you need a pencil and some paper and a pencil. So if you don't have that, go ahead and go get some. When I ask you to pause and try the practice problems, I really hope that you're doing that. I don't want you to sit there and watch because it's not the same as actually trying it out yourself. It'll really help you when it gets to the IP. And if you're not happy with your grade and you want to raise that grade, go ahead and redo any IP that you wish. If you need help first, that's perfect. Just come to office hours and we can get that done. All right, made up answers and I don't know. So I am noticing that some of you are entering made up answers, okay, or IDK on the IP. These answers do not earn credit. You get 0 points, okay? So for instance, if I have a question on the IP that says, is x squared plus 3x minus 2 equals 0 in standard form? Sometimes I get answers like 34, like, this is a yes or no answer anyway. So you should be saying yes or no, okay? So make sure you're thinking about what I'm asking you. And other times I'll just get IDK. So in either of these cases, you're getting a 0. So it's really not helping your grade. So let's do better. If you feel your fingers beginning to type a made-up answer, or I don't know, stop. Email me right then and there so that I can help you so that you can get points for your hard work. You can also use other resources like office hours or YouTube to get help, but also email me. I respond pretty quickly, okay? All right, so this is bell work time. Please go ahead and pause and try these factoring problems out. When you're done, come back for some help. All right. Let's solve x squared plus 4x plus 4. So we'll see that a is equal to 1. Let's change the color here. B is equal to 4, and C is equal to 4. So we need to find a number that multiplies to 4 but adds to 4. That's going to be 2 and 2. So we'll have x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 4. Now we can factor by grouping. So we'll group the first 2 and the second 2. We can take out an x from the first pair. X plus 2 is left. And we can take out a 2 from the second pair with x plus 2 left. So when we factor this together, we'll get x plus 2 times x plus 2 as our final solution. Okay. All right, in number 2 of the bell work, we have a greatest common factor of 2. This one came from your homework last time, and the answer choices on the IP weren't correct. So I just wanted to show you the correct solution here. So once we take out a 2, we'll have 3x squared minus 8x plus 4 left. So a is equal to 3, b is negative 8, and c is 4. So we need a number that multiplies to 12 and adds to negative 8. and that's going to be -6 and -2. So we'll bring our 2 down for our final answer and set up our parentheses for our factors. So we'll have 3x squared minus 6x minus 2x plus 4. Now we can factor by grouping, so we'll group the first 2 and the second 2 together with that plus sign in the middle already. We can take out a 3x from the first group with x minus 2 left. And we can take out a -2 from the second group with x minus 2 left. So we'll have 3x, let's write this in order. We'll have x minus 2 as our first factor. And 3x minus 2 as our second factor. Okay, so our final factor form is 2 times x minus 2 times 3x minus 2. All right, so let's get started. Our lesson for today is dealing more with solving quadratic equations by factoring. We wanted to get more practice with this today. The focus is to get more practice with solving quadratic equations. Okay, said that already. If you did not complete the solving quadratic equations by factoring lesson, please stop and go back to the lesson from last Wednesday or Thursday and complete that before you complete this lesson. All right, let's review. What are the 3 steps to solving a quadratic equation by factoring? Step 1 is to write the equation in standard form. Step 2 is to factor the quadratic. And step 3 is to use the zero product property to find the zeros. All right, so there was a common mistake on the last homework we had. I noticed that some of us were confused on how to write equations in standard form. So let's review this problem below from the last homework. It says, write x squared plus 2x equals -3 in standard form. So in order to do this, we have to do a little bit of work. So we have x squared plus 2x equals -3. So the goal is to get all of the numbers on the left side and a 0 on the right side, which means that we have to look at our right side and see what's there. So we have a -3. So in order to move -3, we have to use our inverse operation rule. So 3 is negative, so to move it, we use the inverse of a negative, which is a positive. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. Okay. So when I do this, I have x squared, and now I have 2x plus 3. I can't combine those because they're not like terms, so I'm going to keep those as separate terms. So I should have 3 terms on my left side, and then -3 plus 3 is 0. Okay, so the answer to this would be C, not B. B is not the correct answer. You don't just simply move this number over as -3. That is incorrect. You have to add 3 to both sides, so if you notice, the sign actually switches from negative to a positive in your final answer. All right, so let's review. Please don't forget to pause. I want you to try these on your own because these are review problems. So go ahead and stop the video now and try these out. Okay, so I want to write this in standard form. So I'm going to add 18 to both sides. Notice I'm adding because that's the inverse of a -18. X squared plus 9x plus 18. None of these are like terms, so I can't add any of them together. So I just write all 3 terms out separately equals 0. Okay, so it went from being a -18, and when I moved it over here to the left, it became a positive. Okay, this one, example 2, right? 3x squared plus 11x equals 5 in standard form. Okay, so 5 in this case is positive. So the inverse of positive is negative. So I'm going to subtract 5 this time. Okay, so I'll have 3x squared plus 11x minus 5. Remember, there are no like terms, so I can't combine any of those. I'll just have 3 terms separate equals 0. Okay, so it went from being a positive 5 on the right side to a -5 when I moved it to the left. All right, more practice. So we're going to review using the zero product property to find the zeros of the quadratic equation. Go ahead and pause while you try example 1 and 2 and return for the solutions. So for this, we simply look at our problem. So example 1 says 4x minus 1 times x plus 2. What we have here is two factors separated by parentheses. So to find the zeros, we take the first factor and set it equal to 0, and the second factor and set it equal to 0. Now we simply solve for x in each case. And for the second one, we subtract 2 from both sides. So we'll have x equals negative 2 as our second zero. So our solutions here would be x equals 1/4 and x equals negative 2. For the second one, we have w plus 1 as our first factor and w minus 9 as our second. And we're going to set both of those equal to 0. Then we get to solve each one individually for the variable w this time. So we'll have w equals negative 1 as 1, 0. And we'll have w equals 9 as our second 0. Great job so far. All right, one last thing I want us to practice before we do some example problems that fully solve a quadratic by factoring. Let's learn how to convert a binomial into a trinomial. So in order to factor, we must start with a trinomial. So in order to factor a binomial, we must start with a trinomial so that we can identify A, B, and C terms. So let's practice writing binomials as trinomials. The code word for today is the word I will say it later. I'm sorry. Okay, so example 1, x squared minus 12 equals 0. So what we need to do is write this as a binomial. It's very, very simple. All we do is add a 0 in between the two terms that we start with. So for example 1, we'll have x squared. All we do is add a plus 0, and we have to make sure we use the right variable. So there's an x here, so we'll use an x minus 12. So the only thing that we added here was a positive 0x. That's how we make a binomial into a trinomial. Okay, so for example 2, we would do 2w squared, this time plus 0w, because w is our variable, plus 8. So again, we added a plus 0 and the variable. Okay, I want you to try example 3. Go ahead and pause and give that a try. Oops, sorry. So you'll have r squared plus 0r minus 121. So you added that plus 0r, and now you have a trinomial. Okay. All right, so let's see the application of solving quadratic equations. Okay. So a relief package is released from a helicopter at 1,600 feet. The height of the package can be modeled by the equation h equals negative 16t squared plus 1,600, where h is the height of the package. And feet and t is the time in seconds. The pilot wants to know how long it would take for the package to hit the ground. So what we need to do here is write the equation in standard form. So it tells us that the equation we want to use is negative 16t squared plus 1,600. But I need 3 terms. So we need to write this binomial as a trinomial. So we're going to add plus 0t there, and then plus 1,600. Keyword is that it says it wants to know how long it takes the package to hit the ground. So that means we're going to replace h from that equation in the word problem with a 0. Okay, so now we can factor. Well, we have a GCF of 16. Okay, so when we take out a 16, we have negative t squared plus 0t plus 100. equals 0. Okay, we'll draw the 16 down at the end and set up our factor pairs. So A is -1, B is 0, and C is 100. So we need two numbers that multiply to -100 and add to 0. Well, that's going to be -10 and 10. So we'll have -t squared minus 10x plus 10x plus 100 equals 0. Okay, we could take out a negative. I changed my variable on accident. These should all be t's. Okay, happens, no big deal, but let's change it. Okay, so we can take out a -t, and we'll have t plus 10 left. And we can take out a 10 from the second one, and we'll have t plus 10 left. Equals 0. So our factors are 10t plus 10 and -t plus 10 equals 0. Last step, use the zero product property to find how long it will take for the package to hit the ground. So we need to take both of our equations and set them equal to 0 and solve. So subtract 10 on both sides for this one. So t equals -10. So t equals -10. We can't have negative time, so unfortunately this is not an answer that we can use. Okay, let's try the other equation, -10t plus 10 equals 0. When we solve this one, subtract 10 on both sides first, we'll get -t equals -10. We have a negative sign in front of that t, so we have to divide by -1. So t equals 10. So our solution is that the time that it will take for the package to land on the ground will be 10 equals 10 seconds. Excuse me, t equals 10 seconds. All right, let's solve the quadratic equation by factoring. So today we're just going to practice some binomials first. So we have to write it in standard form. So that means we're going to have n squared plus 0n minus 9 equals 0. Okay. We need to find two numbers that multiply to -9 and add to 0. It's going to be 3 and -3. So n squared plus 3n minus 3n minus 9 equals 0. We can take out an n from the first pair, n plus 3 left, and a -3 from the second pair, which leaves us with n plus 3 equals 0. So our factors are going to be n plus 3 and n minus 3. Okay, so we wrote our equation in standard form, we factored it, and then used the zero product property to find the zeros. I want you to use all three steps to try example 2. Go ahead and pause and give that a try now. Okay, so we need to write it in standard form first. So we'll have k squared plus 0k minus 4 equals 0. So we need to find two numbers that multiply to -4 and add to 0. -2 and 2. So we'll have k squared minus 2k plus 2k minus 4 equals 0. Take out let's group them. Group the first two and the second two. We can take out a k from the first pair with k minus 2 left, and a 2 from the second pair with k minus 2 left equals 0. So our factors are going to be k minus 2 and k plus 2. So one thing I forgot to do for these examples is is step 3. Okay, I forgot to use that zero product property to find the zeros. So let's go back. So we'll have n plus 3 equals 0 over here, and n minus 3 equals 0. Solve these for n. So subtract 3 from both sides on this one, and we'll get n equals -3 as 1, 0. And then here we add 3 to both sides, and we'll get n equals 3 as our other 0. All right. Here we'll have k minus 2 equals 0 and k plus 2 equals 0. And our k value here is going to be 2. And our k value here is negative 2. Now we have all three steps represented. All right, two more examples here. The code word for today is Seattle. The code word for today is Seattle. All right, so step 1, write the equation in standard form. Here we have a GCF of 2. When we take out a 2, we'll have x squared minus 16 left. Okay, now we need to find a number that multiplies to negative 16 but adds to 0. It's going to be negative 4 and 4. So we'll have x squared minus 4x plus 4x equals 0. Factor by grouping. I left out a term. It should be minus 16 here equals 0. Okay, so I can take out an x from the first group with x minus 4 left, and a 4 from the second group with x minus 4 left. So my factors are x minus 4 and x plus 4. Okay, so my zeros, I wrote it in standard form, factored it, zeros, x minus 4 equals 0, and x plus 4 equals 0. So x equals 4, and x equals negative 4. All right, go ahead and pause the video and try number 4 on your own. All right, GCF in this case is 3. So factor out a 3, we'll get x squared minus 25 equals 0. So we need to find two numbers that multiply to negative 25, not 24, 25. And add to 0, so negative 5 and 5. So we'll have x squared minus 5x plus 5x minus 25 equals 0. Factor by grouping. We could take out an x from the first group with x minus 5 left, and a 5 from the second group with x minus 5 left equals 0. And our GCF was 3 with x minus 5 and x plus 5 as answers. So don't forget that code word is Seattle. I'm going to have to erase that to have some room. Okay, so we'll have x minus 5 equals 0 and x plus 5 equals 0. So our zeros are going to be x equals 5 and x equals negative 5. Okay, so great job today. That was all of the practice that you needed to complete your IP for today. Please go to my haiku page, find the link on more solving quadratic equations by factoring IP, and complete that. Use the video, your notes, and office hours to get the work done. Okay? Email me with questions or concerns. See you soon. Bye.